You there, Margaret? All right, we're back on live recording as well, okay? So you got everybody but Dennis back, it seems like, so that's good, okay? So being a facilitator means you're really not an agent, okay? So you can't do O, L, D, or C with those people, okay? You're just basically accountability of funds and reasonableness of care. So basically being a facilitator is like, I don't know, like kissing your sister, I guess. It's just, you know, you're just not doing anything. You're not helping anybody or you're just facilitating to get from seller to buyer, buyer to seller, okay? You won't likely stay a facilitator all the way through. You'll end up choosing an agency. There are times you're going to be, I already gave you the first one, which is on a listing appointment. And you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you know, you might think seller's agent, but that said, it does come with some inherent obligations from you to me and me to you. That's O, L, D, and C, by the way, guys. Okay, those are inherent obligations that you might not be ready for because I literally just walked in the door a couple of minutes ago. So unless you're prepared to hire me today, I suggest I'll be a facilitator going forward. Okay, and they say, I'll be a facilitator. Then I say, okay, great. In the future, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you guys talk about it and you say, boy, you know that Lannon, he really knows his stuff. He's the only one that ever brought out the form. You know, he really was a good agent. We feel confident he can sell the house for us. We want to go with him. At that point, we can always upgrade and I can become a seller's agent and we'll do a new form. Fair enough? And that usually gets them to sign as a facilitator. Okay.
But if you agree upon that you're going to be a facilitator, you're not going to be marketing and listing the property.
Margaret, it's a great question. Yeah, that's for, I do generally speaking, unless it's
Okay.
a condo, it's a two-step listing process.
Okay.
I go and look at the house or property, and then I leave and I do my homework and all my research, see what it could sell for, marketing plan, resume, all that stuff. I come back and then I hit them with the papers and I want to get it signed up and agree on a price and all that then at that
Okay.
point, I'm going to go ahead and become a seller's agent because they're going to hire me. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, great. Any questions about that, everybody? Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
So the other time you might be a facilitator is this, and I'll pick on you, Mark, because you mostly work with buyers, okay? So the customer comes out and they go and look at your listing, Corey's listing, and they're gonna have what? Probably one of three reactions to it. They love it, they absolutely hate it, or it's a definite maybe, okay? Love it, you're a seller's agent. That's pretty much end of story. You only found them because of that, okay? Hate it. They hate the house. They're puking on their shoes because it's such a dog and they don't have any interest in buying it whatsoever. But you know what, Mark? You seem like a really nice guy. And I've heard great things about what a good buyer's agent you are. Can you help us buy a house? Just not this one because it's disgusting. We hate it. Can you help?
Yeah.
Of course you can because you're an agent, right? So personally, guys, I leave it up to you. I have no problem if he flips the switch and starts working with them as a buyer's agent. Because what did they say about Corey's listing? Not a chance. Not any chance in the world they're going to buy it, right? If you can ensure that, Mark, that they will not buy that listing, I have no problem you flipping a switch, okay? How about the third scenario? Gee, we kind of like this house, Mark. It's pretty good. But we like you too. You seem like a really nice young man. And we have these 4 other houses that we've been looking at, and we don't have an agent. Can you possibly show us these other houses? Can you do it?
Yes.
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah.
Because you're an agent. That's what you do, right?
Yeah.
So Dennis is in, guys. So everybody's back. So that's great. All right. So basically what you're doing is, hi, Dennis, you're going to be a facilitator at that time, because what are they doing? They've said to you, maybe we will buy Corey's listing, right? But we like these other ones too. So before you show them the next house, you got to get the facilitator form signed. You understand? Yeah. So now you're a seller's agent for 123 Main Street, but they also want to go see 456 Oak Street. You're a facilitator for that. Okay.
But wouldn't you be a buyer's agent?
No,
because of how they came about?
They came about. Exactly, Margaret. They came to you because of the marketing of the seller listing.
Okay.
Because of the marketing and the listing, you met them and they're a buyer customer. Okay.
That's confusing.
I know. Sorry.
They decide to buy another house that's not Corey's listing. Do you then switch it or no?
So I talked to at great length Anita Hill about that, and she said that you should always, at the offer to purchase, increase your agency from facilitator to whatever it's going to be, which would be buyer's agent.
As long as it's not the other listing.
Right.
Right.
You know, and doing the best you can, guys, to avoid dual agency. Do the best you can to avoid dual agency. Sometimes it is not, you just can't help it. Okay. So let me give you an example. So Mark's got, they go and see 123 Main Street, and they kind of like it. They kind of like it. But they want to go see these other houses. So he shows them the other houses as a facilitator, right? And in the meantime, 123 Main Street goes under agreement. So now they can't get it, and they want to make an offer on 456 Oak Street. So Mark writes up the offer, and he upgrades himself to a buyer's agent at that point, right? And 456 Oak, they get it accepted. Congratulations. Glad for you. But they have a bad home inspection. You know, the place has loads of termites, and there's asbestos, and the roof's leaking. And yeah, we're not buying this place. We are not buying this place. So they walk out of there, and Mark's phone rings, and it's Corey saying, hey, 123 Main Street just came back on the market. Do you have any buyers for it? And he sells his buyers that, and guess what? They say, oh, we'd love to buy that house now. Now, what has he got? He's got roped into, unfortunately, into dual agency, okay? Which is the worst thing you can do. When you're in dual, guys, we'll cover this further in the paperwork, but you can't do anything. You basically can't do anything. So you've got to get out of it as quickly as you can, which basically, Mark, you'd have to recuse yourself and maybe get somebody like Dennis or Tassia or somebody to take over the buyer, and you just stay out of the picture, okay? That's the best way to do it. Okay. So if you do it properly, guys, you will only run into dual agency every decade or two. It can be very, very rare. Okay.
Hey, Rich,
Again,
could I ask a
focus
quick
on doing
question?
it. Of course.
Why wouldn't you be able to do a referral? Could you refer, excuse me, do a referral on that to somebody?
Yes, and that's what I was suggesting to Mark, that because he's now upgraded to buyer agent with them. But remember, he's on. Oh, you don't know this, Louise. Mark is on Corey's team, so whenever Corey signs a listing, Mark's on that listing as well. So he is a seller's agent and a buyer's agent. That's dual agency. And I would urge him to jump out of that as fast as he can and flip the buyer over to somebody in the office. And refer them out. Exactly.
Got it.
Okay. Yep. So if you ever feel like dual agency is coming down the pike, I always recommend you refer the person, and to be smart about it, refer the buyer, keep the sellers. Because obviously seller listings are harder to come by, right? So keep the sellers. Okay. Everybody got that? All right, cool. So here's how you're going to get a listing now. Let's go to page 7 and 8. Okay. Pages 7 and 8. Agreement for exclusive right to sell. And then the second page of the form. Okay. Now I'll give you my scripts if you want to be looking at the form. So I put this in front of the sellers. I have it upside down. I have a very procedural way that I take listings, you guys. I always start, when it's time to do the paperwork, I start with the agency disclosure, because I learned a long time ago, right? If you get a bunch of little yeses, little tiny yeses, and they get bigger and bigger, a big yes is this form, getting it signed. Okay, that's the ultimate big yes. They sign this contract, you just got a listing. Congratulations, everybody. Okay, so little yeses lead to big yeses. So you want to get little yeses all the way through, like, you know, getting them to sign the agency disclosure. Then I'll do probably the description of property decline, maybe the lead paint form, especially if they've never tested for lead paint. That's an easy one. Then I'll do open house. The open house form, which in the age of coronavirus, I think you want to write at the bottom, the seller acknowledges that they still want to have open houses despite the coronavirus. Does that make sense, guys? Especially if it's an occupied house. I don't think you just take a chance on that they verbally discuss with you about having open houses. I think you want to put it in writing on that form. All right. And then my last, before I do showings, because showings, that's a whole other can of worms, how you get into see the house. I do the agreement for exclusive right to sell, and make sure you use the one that says with consent to designated agency. Okay. I have this all filled out pretty much, except maybe the price. I have my fee in there, everything in there, all the dates are in there. unless I think it's going to be a delayed listing type of thing. I have everything pretty much ready to go. And I explained it to him. I said, Mr. Basile, here's the actual employment agreement. Okay. As you can see, it's the agreement for exclusive right to sell with consent to designated agency. I've got your address on here, a description of your house. So there's your tax ID where your map block and lot is held, and the book and page at the such and such county of deeds where your deed is held. And we agree we're going to go for, $5 million, right? That's our price. Great. Good. $5 million it is. Okay. You can see under paragraph 2, you guys authorized me to advertise the property. Were you okay with our professional yard sign that we put in the yard? Yes? Oh, great. I checked the box right in front of them. Little yes, another little yes, right? And then I say, and we're offered to compensate buyer's agents in the following amount. And it's pretty much half the fee, plus or minus half the fee, okay? I know I point out to them that I never, ever, ever check off the cooperate and compensate sub-agents because you just don't these days, guys. Vicarious liability is what you're trying to avoid. By offering sub-agency, you subject yourself to vicarious liability. And what that means is, let's say you've got a listing that's on a really busy street, and the sub-agent says, oh no, there's no traffic on this street whatsoever. It's very quiet. It's as if you or the seller said it, and you could actually be sued and held liable for that. It's crazy. So we just avoid it by not offering sub-agency, okay? But you do want to offer a facilitator, so you're going to check that bottom box as well. And now, as you guys have seen how you could possibly be a facilitator, right? You do want to basically offer facilitators the same you would offer a buyer's agent, okay? And I mean, it's if a person's doing agency right, they're going to be a facilitator some of the time. They're going to be a facilitator, okay? So I pointed off to the sellers, I'm basically splitting up the fee between myself and any buyer agents or facilitators that are going to sell it, okay? I say, Mr. Seller, you agree under paragraph 3 to refer inquiries to us, cooperate as best you can, and you're going to pay the broker's fee, which we agreed on is 25%, okay? Also, this is all attorney approved mumbo jumbo, and I kind of circle my finger over 1, 2, and 3. And I just paraphrase. I said, basically what it says is anyone we've shown the house to within the next 90 days, 120 days, whatever, after the agreement's over, we would still be due a fee. And I put them at ease by saying it's never happened to me before. One time I thought it did, it was a misunderstanding. But basically it's just protecting us in case someone that we've shown it to still buys the place. We're still obligated you're still obligated to pay the fee. Okay. In bold, Mr. Seller says once an offer has been accepted in writing, we're not going to try to sell the house anymore. We're basically just going to go ahead and start processing the sale. If at any time that falls through, we'll go right back on the market and try to find another buyer for you. Okay. Paragraph 4, Mr. Seller tells you that I'm going to comply with all the fair housing laws. So we don't care if their skin color is purple as long as their money's green, right? And I make sure they say right. I had one guy in North Quincy tell me one time, I don't want to sell to any Asians. That wasn't good. So I had to leave, tell him to call his attorney and call his son, come back the next day. I asked him the same question. I said, Kenny, he's a friend of mine. I shouldn't have done that. I should have turned him into MCAD guys, as we're supposed to do, right? But he's 80 years old. His wife's in assisted living because she's got Alzheimer's. He's like, I'm trying to protect my neighbor. He doesn't want to have anybody live next to him like that. I'm like, talk to your son, talk to your attorney. All right.
He didn't want to sell to any real estate agents. Is that what you said?
No.
I know what you said.
There you go. And when I came back the next day, I said, so Kenny, paragraph 4, you do understand I'm going to sell it, doesn't matter who buys it, right, Kenny, as long as their money's green? And he said, absolutely, Rich. Good. Well, here we go. Keep going, right? All right. Now, paragraph 5, you're going to start and an end date. All contracts have to have a beginning and an end. Okay. Any questions on page 1? Agent?
Yes. I have a question.
Yes.
Rich, can we actually white out or block out the sub-agent part of the contract, like draw a line through it?
I think, Dennis, that's a great point by you. I think you can. I think it's got to stay on the agreement just in case some idiot seller says, I do want to offer sub-agency, because I think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But yeah, feel free to cross it off if you want to.
Okay, great.
All right, guys. All right, so that's page 7. Page 8, the second page, okay? Some really important things here. Paragraph 6, it's going to go into MLS, okay? You're really doing your sellers a disservice if you don't put all your stuff in MLS, guys. I don't know how to tell you. There's 15,000 plus agents in MLS, and there's just you, okay? So please put them all in MLS. Paragraph 7, by initialing, you're authorized to put a lockbox on there, okay? You have to make a decision early in your career whether you're going to be a lockbox agent or an accompanied agent. Which one do you think offers you the greatest leverage for your time? Anybody?
Lockbox.
Company,
A company, Margaret says. I think it's lockbox, Margaret.
you do, okay.
I do. I think
Yeah.
if you can decide today and stick with it to be a lockbox agent, you are going to leverage yourself so much better than by accompanying buyers with other agents who have already said they want to go see the house anyway, right?
True,
I
you're
mean,
right, yeah.
they're going to be there anyway with their agent, so let them go. I mean, I have sellers that say to me, well, Rich, you're going to be here for the showings, right? And I say, I wasn't planning on it, no. Oh, but you know the house and you can explain the house and this and that. And I say, Mr. Mastello, I understand. I get where you're coming from. And what I'm hearing from you is it sounds like you really want to sell your house, don't you? Yeah, we really want to sell. And we think you could sell it the best. I said, okay, great. Let me just explain a few things about the buying process, Mr. Mastello. May I? Sure. Okay, great. The decision to buy happens in the first 17 seconds. Did you guys all know that, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah. The decision not to buy is 2 minutes. Okay. Oh God, the wife's calling me. So what's easier if the first 17 seconds, the door opens up and there's this, 6'3" stranger they've never seen before in their lives standing there in front of them saying, hey, come on in, let me show you the kitchen and there's the living room and look at that fireplace. Or if I'm not there and their buyer's agent who they know and trust and like opens the door and they all together discover all the wonderful benefits that your house offers. What do you think is a better chance of having it work? And they say, oh yeah, I kind of get your point, right? And you say, so let's trust them to do their job, and trust me to go back to my office and do my job, trying to find you other buyers that haven't already said they want to see your house. Let's find new ones that I can just, by my marketing, I can find you people that don't know about your house yet. Okay, and let's put that lockbox on there. So if you don't mind, just initial right there. No, a little yes, guys, a little yes. Okay. Paragraph 8, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that does you. I'm back. Sorry, doing my seller script again. Paragraph 8. This is you giving your informed consent to designated agency. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do you remember when we signed the mandatory licensee disclosure form? I said to you that it's you and me against the world. Right. So what that means is this is allowing all of the Keller Williams agents, 160 something that we have in my office, to come here and show your house, likely working for the buyer. And you don't care who sells your house, do you? You just want to get the most money and the fastest you can, right? Yeah. So let's let them have their buyers and bring them in. Just remember, we work together. They work for the buyer. Fair enough? Okay, great. And then paragraph 9, you're going to and by the way, down here, Ms. Seller, it says that you acknowledge that I'm your designated agent. And I've put my name on here and my license number. Okay, great. In paragraph 9, when an offer comes in, we have to talk about what we're going to do here. I have had great success in this market and economy, Ms. Seller, with using the middle one with the slight little addition I put on the end there, accept offers at or above list price. And the reason is, if you read it carefully, it says I can tell people if I have an offer. I can even tell them if it's my own offer, but I can't tell them anything about the price, the terms, or the conditions of the offer, except if they're at or above list price. So what that does is it allows bidding wars to get going much more easily, okay? Because what will happen is, like, Alicia will call, well, Alicia will sell, but she'll call me and say, hey, Rich, you have any offers on 123 Main Street? And if it's true, I can say, yeah, I have 3 offers and 2 of them are at or above the asking price. And then she, being a good broker, would say, oh my God, how much over? Because that's a good broker, right? And I say, oh, that's a great question, Alicia, and I wish I could tell you, and I can't. All I can tell you is that they're at or above the asking price. But hey, it's up to you and your buyer, give it your best shot. So then she's going to call the buyer and be like, hey, Lannon's got 2 over. We better do something. Let's go in bold. Let's go 25 over, whatever, right? And that's how you get the most money for your sellers. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
All right, great. Any questions about that so far? All right, great. And then, by the way, I say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, under additional terms and conditions, you can see I wrote in here, all offers to be presented by the listing agent only. And the reason that I do that is because I want it to be that basically, the only one sitting here talking about the offer are going to be me and you. And more than likely, I'll just email you the offers and we'll discuss them by phone. Fair enough? Yeah. Okay, great. All right. And then everybody's going to sign it. Okay. And if you have a team, everybody on the team signs it as well. Okay. And that's where this is getting the listing agreement, guys. So the seller's got to sign it at the bottom. Everybody got that?
Mm-hmm.
Questions on page 8? No? Okay. So you got the listing. Of course, you're going to market it. You got to do an open house, right? Once we get around, the coronavirus is gone and you can do these type of things. If it's April 7th and social distancing and all that is still recommended, but we're back to trying to get the economy going, and they say you can start doing your normal, as much as you can normally, except, still maintaining social distance, I have an idea, okay? If it's your listing, you're gonna use the one that says my listing. And if you're doing it for somebody else, you would use the one that says another agent's listing, okay, guys? And I'll explain the differences on the forums. But this one, basically, if it's your listing, it says you represent the seller. Pretty simple, right? Because we talked about that. You got the seller first, and because of that, you're having an open house, so you work for the seller, okay? If you're doing an open house for another agent, you don't have to represent the seller. So you can be a facilitator, and if they like the house and they want to buy it and they want to work with you, you can bump up to being a buyer's agent, okay? So here's some ideas for an open house if they become allowable again, yet still maintaining social distance. The weather's getting nicer, right? Why not set up a table outside and don't even have sign-in sheets? And just basically tell people, hi, I'm Dennis McDonald, and I'm holding this house open. As you can see, though, I'm not going to go in. I have it all open for you. All the lights are on. Help yourself. Right now, there are 2 people in the house. Or if you'd like, you can just wait out here, and I'll send you in when they are done, okay? And you never touch them. You never get too close, right? And they go in, you say, when you're done, come back and see me. Let me know if you like it. And let's say they come out, Dennis, and they love it. Say, okay, great. I will share with you my Keller Williams app. And if you don't mind giving me your cell phone number, I'll send you a text with my information, and we can stay in touch, okay? And guess what? If they don't like it, you say you didn't like it, okay, great. Goodbye. Good luck with the next one. See ya. Okay, right? I mean, does that make sense, guys? If it's raining or whatever, maybe you set up tent in your car, your vehicle in the driveway with the window. You roll the window down, roll it back up. I mean, we just got to figure this out and get through it. Okay.
Great idea, Rich. Great idea.
Doesn't hurt, right? And then, so to open up, you go in with gloves on, right? Open up all the doors and the lights and everything. Come back out, take those gloves, throw in the trash, right? Time to lock up. New gloves go on, you go in, turn everything off, shut everything down, and reset the lockbox, key back in it, take those gloves off, throw them in the trash, okay? Put some hand sanitizer on and drive home. Pretty simple. Tell the sellers what you did. They can come in and do whatever disinfecting they want. Preferably you're doing open houses on vacant houses, guys.
Yeah.
Better way to do it. Make sense, everybody?
Yep.
Okay? But those are your open house placards, all right? You got your own or another agent's listing. These have to be out right away as soon as you walk in. If any of you have done this before, because I have, you get there like 15 minutes early, because you're supposed to, maybe 30 if you're a good agent. There's already cars out front, right? Have anybody had an open house like that?
Yeah.
It's amazing, right? You're like, holy cow, this can be a good one. You can't let them in until you're set up. And what does it mean to be set up? These bad boys have to be on the table, okay? Because if the first person in the door is from the licensing board and they don't see that, you're getting yourself a letter of citation, okay? Letter of citation. So get that out right away. If you're outside, just have it taped down to your table or wherever you're standing because you're being socially distant, okay? Great. Any questions on the seller side?
Hey, just to let everybody know, what I've done in the past is I've actually taken both the agency disclosure for being the listing agent and also for the facilitator. And I fill those out in advance, and I've actually had them laminated.
I don't care. I'll get
Oh, I
my.
was
So
just
one
thinking that.
side has the facilitator, one side has me as the listing agent. So if I'm doing an open house for Rich, I do it for the facilitator side. If I have my own listings, I leave up the laminated side of being the listing agent. And then it's
Okay.
easy to wipe down at the same time
Mm.
with sanitizer.
Oh, yeah. You saved a tree.
I
There you
know.
go.
Good idea.
Love that idea.
You're so smart, Dennis. Damn.
I learned it from you, Rich. Come on, I got to give you credit. I learned it from you.
He's the best. All right, let's talk about buyers now, guys, okay? Buyer. This is the form for buyer client, page 11, okay? I would suggest when a buyer calls you up, they say, hey, Margaret, I heard you're a great buyer's agent. I want to buy a house. Great, how'd you hear about me? Well, I just, I've seen that, my friend's got the MLS and lets me on, and I look at all the buyers, and you have a lot of times they credit you for being a buyer's agent or this and that, whatever. So I just want you to be my buyer's agent. Okay, You would then obviously set up a meeting, right? You guys want to meet the person, interview them, talk to them. Neutral site, preferably here in the office or the Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or whatever. Again, once social distancing is over, all right? And you're going to talk to them. Now, I would suggest your first blush is start with facilitator. Okay, start with facilitator because you don't know if they're going to be. They could be wacko. They could be insane. And you're like, I don't want to be stuck in a contract with these guys for 3 months when they're whacked. Okay, so maybe start as facilitator and tell them if at the end of our discussion, you like me and I like you, and we decide we're going to work together, then I can always upgrade to being a buyer's agent, and we'll put our mutual affection for each other in writing, which is this bad boy. You don't tell them that though. You gotta get them to a contract, okay? So you interview and you talk, and it seems like, yeah, you know what? I like these guys. They're my cup of tea. They're my cup of tea. So you say, you know what? Here's what I can do for you. And I think you're pretty serious about buying a house. So I would like to work with you. Would you like to work with me? And they say, yes, I would. Great. So you're going to become my buyer client. So we're going to do this agency form over. So Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, what you need to understand is, like I said before, this is not a contract. And we're sitting here talking about, buying a house. So I have to give this form to you. We're talking about, a specific property. We're talking about many specific properties. Hopefully you're going to like something that you want to buy. But again, down here, we've got the 3 choices, and we're going to be a buyer's agent, which is good. You're the buyer. I'll do everything I can to advocate, negotiate, and advise you, okay? And what you have to understand, too, is that we're a designated agency office, so I'm the only agent in the office that works for you. So just because we go and see a Dennis McDonald listing doesn't mean Dennis works for you. He works for the seller, actually. So it's me and you against the world, okay, Mr. Buyer? Sound good? All right, great. Just sign right there then, please. Okay? Any questions on that one, guys?
Nope.
Pretty simple, right? Okay. So, Mr. Marcello, I can tell you're serious about buying a house, and I'm very serious about helping you buy one. And this document I'm about to give you, buyer representation agreement, this basically says that we're really serious about working together. And let me explain the form to you if you don't mind, okay? Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, great. So basically, this is an agreement between us, okay, and you, and you're going to be basically buying and you can see the blanks on there, guys, residential usually, and it could be single family, multifamily, condominium, whatever. You probably over the phone, you had a discussion with them and you got the gist of what they're looking for. So you can fill a lot of this out ahead of time, right? And so you would check off, say, residential, single family, okay? And your general description you gave me, we talked about, is going to be a two plus bedroom house. You want at least 1 bath. You definitely want a garage, and you want a decent sized yard. Okay, and you're looking pretty much on the South Shore. Okay, Mr. Buyer, that's all correct, right? We talked about a price range. There's your low and there's your high. Okay, we're going to start today, and we're going to run for. We'll start with 2 weeks, and if we want to agree to go longer, we can go longer. Okay. Now, agents, why would you only go 2 weeks?
So you can walk away.
You can walk away.
Yeah.
Exactly. Very good, Margaret. And if they're good buyers, I mean, will they hopefully make an offer within the first 2 weeks, Mark?
Yes.
I would say so, right? I mean, you don't want to be showing people 50 houses. You know what I mean? You want to show them 3, 4, 5, and they grab one of them. Okay, at least they make an offer on one of them, and a good offer too. All right, so you can do as long as you want on that, 2 weeks to many months. Okay, but that's whatever you guys choose. Now back to talking to the buyer. Paragraph 3, you understand that I'll do everything I can to find you a property. All right. Paragraph 4, you don't have to pay me any retainer. Okay, guys. You want to basically. My script to them was always, hey, buyer's agency is basically free to you. The seller's going to pay me out of the proceeds at the closing, okay? And this is how you're going to do it. I'll get to it in a little bit. All right? Paragraph 5, the buyer agrees to pay a fee equal to, and I would put on there, guys, 2 to 6%, okay? 2 to 10 if you want, whatever it is. And that's basically you're going to explain to them, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, that is not being paid by you. That's being paid by the seller, depending upon what they're offering via the multiple listing is what I get paid. Okay, I'm basically going to get what I get, and I won't get upset from the multiple listing. Okay, great. And basically down here, you understand that any of these properties are showing you, I'm still going to be doing my fee within 2 or 3 months. So you can't go behind my back and buy another house. The house that I okay.
Rich, can I ask a question?
Right ahead.
What if it says 1% on the MLS?
You get what you get, and you don't get upset. Does that stink? Yes, that's terrible. But I mean, if you're going to do it as I'm saying, Tasia, and you say it's going to be free, you basically got to just hold your nose and take it. If you can have a conversation with the listing agent ahead of time and say, why are you only offering 1? Can I get 2? or can I get 2.5 or whatever, and you can work it out with them, good for you. Okay. Okay, guys, any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Dennis, you got muted there, so I'm going to unmute you if I can. All right, so then go to page 2. And this is how it becomes free, everybody, okay, with the changes I've made on here, all right? Paragraph 6, the broker is a member of multiple listing, and we're going to find houses as best we can through the multiple listing, okay? And what we're going to do for you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, is I'm going to accept the offer of compensation in the MLS from the listing broker, and everything else is crossed off, okay? Because the rest of it says the buyer remains liable for the difference. If it's going to be free to them, you can't have that in there, guys, okay? So if you want to make it free, you got to cross this off. If you're strong enough and good enough at your job as a buyer's agent, you can get a $5,000 retainer and you can say, my fee is 3% and you're paying it, and leave that in there. I have no problem with that. Good luck. You got to be good though. You got to be really good. You got a proven track record of saving people money, negotiating really well. And in a seller's market, that's hard to do. That's awful hard to do, okay? So when it turns, then I think you're going to have a good chance of being a buyer's agent that can command a good chunk of dough. But for right now, you may have to get what you get and don't get upset, okay? And then also the second one says explore properties not currently in the MLS. And what are those? Expireds, FSBOs, coming soons, not even really on the market, but you roped them into a one-shot showing type of thing, okay? And those you're going to just basically say to the seller, hey, if I bring the buyer in, will you pay me X%? And they say, okay, yeah, I'll do it. All right, great. Paragraph 7, you do understand, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, that I may have multiple buyers for the same property. So I'll do my best to avoid that, but it may happen, okay? I also will, paragraph 8, the fair housing laws, so we don't care what the seller's skin color is as long as they got a great house for you, right? Great. Paragraph 9, you do understand, acknowledge consent to designated agency. So we can go look at other houses that are listed by agents in my office. Just know that they work for the seller. I work for you. Remember, it's me and you against the world, okay? And your designated agents are down here. Is there a question? Okay. And then if you want to fill in any of the additional terms and conditions, that's the spot to put them in down the bottom, and then everybody signs it, okay? Everybody signs it. You do need to get this signed because it allows designated agency. See it on there? With consent to designated agency. Because if you're going to do a deal with anybody in Keller Williams Showcase Properties, you need to have their consent to designated agency. And then you got to get them to sign on page 14, the actual notice of designated agency. Okay?
So that, excuse me.
Yeah, good.
So
Margaret.
that is obligatory in addition to the mandatory agency disclosure? If you're working with the buyer?
If you're working with a buyer who's looking at and going to make an offer on a
On a
Keller
Keller
Williams
Williams.
Realty Showcase Properties only.
Okay,
Only our Braintree Market Center. Fair enough, everybody?
yes.
So if they're looking at Signature or Chestnut Hill or Boston or the Cape, no worries, different offices. So it's just this, okay? So basically, this would be written, notice of designated agency at the offer. So if Margaret brings in an offer on my listing, I have to get my seller to sign one and she's got to get her buyer to sign one. And it's the responsibility of the listing agent to collect this and get it in their loop. Okay, so let's say Margaret's got an offer coming in on my listing. I would say, Margaret, that's great. What are your buyers' names? Now, why do I need to know that? Anybody know?
In
'Cause you
case
have
they
to put
come
that
back
information
around.
on this form.
It's on the
correct?
form. It's on the form. Do you see how the form says property? So you put in the address, right? Seller, you got to put in the names of the seller. Now, if you're a buyer's agent, where can you find that? On the tax record on the MLS, right? So you put that in there, but the buyer, you don't know yet until you see the offer come in. It would be likely on the check and or the pre-approval letter. Okay, but if it's easier, you just say, hey, Margaret, what's your buyer's names, and you put them on your form. Okay, and then you're going to put in who the designated seller's agent is. In this case, it would be me, and the designated buyer's agent would be Margaret, right? And then what's going to happen is you're going to sign it, and if you're on a team, Mark Gilson, everybody on your team signs it as well. So what you probably want to do is get a few of these blank ones and just have the team all sign them. That's what I would recommend you do. Okay, so agencies, buyer contracts, listing contracts, and notices of designated agency. Okay, and then you're going to send this out to the people to be signed with a box checked if you got the buyer or the seller. You're going to check one or the other. Okay, and date it, and the client signs it. And that's basically the way you explain it. You say, remember I told you that I work for you and the other agents in my office work for the buyer? Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, guess what? Margaret's got an offer coming in on your house and she works for the buyer. You just need to be notified in writing and really pay attention to the fact that don't talk to Margaret. She's working for the buyer. Talk to me. Okay? So this just reinforces the fact that everybody's working for themselves with their client. Okay? So that's the notice of designated agency. Questions on that form? Cool. Moving along, we got the two I hate the most: consent to dual agency
Hey, Rich.
and notice of dual agency. Yes,
Hey,
Dennis.
Rich, I have another question on the notice of designated agency.
Yeah.
If you dual side the transaction, this needs to be filled out as well, correct?
Oh, let's go back to that, Dennis. This goes back to our very, very beginning. How
Right.
did you find the buyer? What caused you to find the buyer?
They came into the open house.
Okay, so they are a customer, are they not? Because
They are.
you got the listing, you marketed the listing, and as a result of marketing that listing, the buyer came to you.
Correct?
Yeah, so you owe it to your seller to have to represent the seller, and
Yes.
you're going to tell that buyer or customer that you work for the seller
Yep,
and that you're a seller's agent.
right.
However, they do have the right to be represented by a buyer's agent if they would like, or they can go ahead and write the offer up through you. Which would they like to do?
And they choose to write it up through me?
Fair enough. You are a seller's agent still.
Correct.
So you, at all times, you work for the seller.
Right. And you haven't signed the disclosure that you're the seller's agent.
Correct. So in that case, there's no designated agency created because it's not like you've got a seller's agent on one end and a buyer's agent on another end.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Just seller's agents. Okay.
Thank you. Yep.
And then if they said to you, well, wait a minute, I do want a buyer's agent, what can I do? And you say, well, all right, give Rich Lannon a call and he and I will work it out. And then
Yep.
I write the offer. So there you
Yep.
go. Okay.
Okay, terrific. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's avoid these dual agency as much as you can, guys. Okay. If you do it right, you probably will be able to do it. There's going to be times occasionally here and there where you may have to. So if so, they're pretty self-explanatory. I would urge you though, if you can, like Louise said, why don't you refer out the buyer and, and keep the seller and let the buyer go work with somebody else. Okay. And those are the consent and notice. I really hope you don't ever have to fill these ones out. I really do.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
But if you are the listing agent and someone comes into the open house and wants you to write it up, you're designated. No, you're a
seller's
facility.
agent. Seller's agent.
You're still a seller's agent.
Your listing, Margaret, right?
Yes,
Your own listing, you're doing the open house. Yep.
yes,
So you have the placard that says the agent here represents the seller.
yes.
Okay. So they're a buyer customer. They come in, they like the open house. They like what they see. They're like, we'd like to make an offer, right? You say to them, okay, I work for the seller. You have the right to be represented by a buyer's agent. Would you like me to find you a buyer's agent or do you want to proceed with me?
Okay,
You see what they say, okay?
Yeah.
And they say, no, I trust you, Margaret. You seem like a nice, honest person. We just want to write it up through you. Okay, we first have to do our mandatory consumer relationship disclosure. I'm a seller's agent. I work for the seller. The seller hired me. And because of him hiring me or her hiring me, I marketed the property. You came in as a result of that marketing. And that's how we found you. So I'm a seller's agent. Okay, so please sign right here that I'm a seller's agent.
okay. Very good.
Questions again, guys? Okay. And then we have one more form I want to go over with you, which is this one here. This is if you're gonna show a FSBO to your buyer client and you just don't have a warm, fuzzy feeling about that FSBO, okay? You're worried that they're gonna renege on their fee. You know what I mean? I think you would want to have that form filled out and send it to them ahead of time. So basically, before you go and show the FSBO, fill it all out, put in the client's names, all that stuff, and get everybody to sign it by .loop or DocuSign or whatever, and make sure your fee is in there, okay? And there's going to be initials by the seller in that box. See where it says down toward the bottom here, initials, seller is offering incorporating agent fee of, okay, this is on page 17. So make sure that they initial that so they, this is ironclad that they agree. They're going to initial and sign that they're paying you X%. That's really if you smell a rat, okay? If you think that they're an honest person, then don't worry about it. Just go and show it and just trust people that, they're going to make it a win-win situation, okay?
Mhm.
All right, questions on agency so far? Okay. I want to cover a couple more things. If I can find my second page here, bear with me. All my papers got thrown all around here. Alicia wasn't kidding. Oh, here it is. It's over here. No wonder I could find it. Okay. On dual agency, the reason we want to avoid it is there's three things you can't do. Basically, you cannot do, number one, a reverse CMA or market analysis for your clients. Okay. You just, it just puts you in such a bad position. Okay. You can't tell the buyer like what to offer. You can't tell the seller if they should take the offer or not. It's just, you're basically sitting there saying, what do you want to do? Well, what should I do? I can't tell you. You tell me. And they're like, well, can't you give me advice? Nope, I can't. Because if you give advice to one, you're harming the other. It's just, you're in such a bad position. Avoid it. Try to avoid it. Number two, you can recommend a home inspector. Okay, so the deal gets together and you're a dual agent. They say, that's great. Next step is what? Well, the next thing we have on the offer is to do a home inspection. Oh, yeah. Can you give me a home inspector? Nope. Because you're gonna harm your seller if you recommend a good home inspector, and you'll harm your buyer if you send him to the guy that is blind, right? So you just can't do that. And then after the home inspection's over, you can recommend a post-inspection course of action because it would harm the other one. So the buyer says to you, well, it's got termites. You think we should do something about that? I can't tell you. You tell me. What do you want to do? It's just awful. So avoid dual agency as best you can. Okay. Here in Alpha, we have in the hallway a brown accordion folder, which does say right on it, agency forms. So if you are doing business with somebody that you don't think you're necessarily going to end up doing a closing with, I would ask you when you're in next to, like somebody that maybe disappears on you, whatever, but you have an agency form, make a quick copy of it and throw it in the brown accordion folder. If you're doing business with the people, those agency disclosure forms will be in your loop anyway. So no big deal there. Okay. Really, really important. If you, your spouse, relative, or someone really close to you is your client, buyer or seller, disclose that fact as many places and as often as you can. If it's your listing, so like, Dennis, if you're listing your brother's house, you would say listing agent related to seller. It would be on any offers that the people write. You got to tell them, hey, I hope you put on your offer that, the listing agent's related to the seller. Make sure it makes it all the way through to the purchase and sale as well. And vice versa if you're on the buyer side, okay? I have a sample script in here on page 2 that the other party, so they'll say the seller acknowledges that, Dennis McDonald is the brother of the buyer and is licensed to sell real estate in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, okay? So disclose. Offer on the listing and on the purchase and sales agreement. Okay. What other questions you guys have?
I'm good.
Yeah,
All right, cool.
This
Louise
was
is
great,
good.
Rich. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, guys,
Thank you.
good. No problem.
Thank you, Rich.
Kind of fun doing a Zoom, I like it.
I
I
know.
know.
I'll get
You
my
guys
camera
can't see
fixed.
all my histrionics in my hands and everything, All right, great. I'm glad you guys came on. The recording did happen, so hopefully it'll be a little convoluted with the whole getting kicked off and everything. But we'll have
I've
some
been
fun.
working on that over here a little bit in between. So we're gonna try to make sure that this recording or both of the recordings get added to the YouTube channel that Terry's putting together. So
Sweet.
apologize for
Excellent.
that. We're working through the kinks and we're all learning as we go. So we'll get there.
All right,
Great
guys. If you
job,
have any
Rich.
questions, just one more thing. Remember, don't bother Alicia with your real estate stuff. Especially don't bother her if you have a deal going within the office and you want to bitch and moan about the other agent. No. She's a designated dual agent. You come and see me. And if you have any real estate related questions, seriously, come and see me. Let her do her job. Okay. I'm here to answer your questions. So actually, don't come and see me. Call me or text me now.
Or Zoom you.
Yeah, Zoom me. There you go. Even better.
Okay.
All right. If you
All
have no
right.
questions, guys, we'll wrap this up. Okay.
Thanks so
All right.
much.
Thank
Good
you.
Great
night.
job.
Stay safe.
Great
Stay
job.
safe, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.